Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is a show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. Like and subscribe, five-star review, like and subscribe. It is that easy. Most importantly today, I got a double guest. This is going to be so much fun. We have Greg Kajewski and James Seils. See, I told you, James. I knew I was going to butcher it. First shot, though. They are the co-founders of BettorEdge. Greg, James, how you guys doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having us, Michael.
Pleasure is all mine. Sounds like we got a kid in the background, too. This is going to be fun. Maybe we get 4 guests. I don't know. This is just this is your show. I'm just here to ask you guys the question. So I'll do my best to direct the questions where they're supposed to go. It makes it a little more difficult, but I'm very confident in myself at this point. I mean, with a mustache like this, am I right? So the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast, Greg, we'll start with you, and James, you're going to get the same one, so just make sure you're thinking, why do you love sports so much?
Yeah, for me, I think sports really brings a lot of competitive nature and community teamwork out of individuals. Growing up in Iowa, played 4 sports in high school and really enjoyed kind of that teamwork aspect, having fun, the camaraderie. Um, that really led from not only playing sports, but then also watching sports as well, and really kind of getting that competitive edge and talking smack and having a reason to really compete with each other. And I think that's led nicely into kind of what we've done with the product as well. So we'll get more into that later, but I'll kick over to James as well.
Love it. James?
Yeah, I played every sport I could as well until my physical attributes ran out as I grew older and didn't continue to grow physically. But for me, it's reality television, right? I mean, like my wife likes some of the reality TV shows that are on, I don't know what channels, but like for me, sports is my reality television because today it's not only the games, it's like the NBA offseason is just a reality show, right? So it's not just the actual physical game and event that goes on, but it's everything that happens around it. And then with sports betting now, like having some, cash on the line as well, just adds to that engagement. So yeah, that for me, that's why I just love sports so much.
James, I cannot agree more. 100%. I bring that up all the time on this show. It's like, why is anyone watching the Kardashians? No offense, do your thing. If you're happy, you go watch it. But like, I can show you a 4-hour college football game that's going to make you go bonkers. I would much rather spend my time doing that on a Saturday than watching any of that TV. And again, you watch it, teach his own. I couldn't care less. You just be happy. But yeah, man, I totally agree. It's the reality aspect that does it for me. And you're 100% right. The NBA offseason, I mean, this one in particular has been crazy. Just to let everyone out there know, I want to get ahead of it. I did put some money on the Nets to win the championship at 35-1 because I don't think KD's getting traded. And that just adds a little more drama to it. That just makes it a little more interesting, right?
I did. So we're out of Minneapolis, and I did just see that the Nets attempted to trade KD to Minnesota for Minnesota to basically give up everyone and 4 like first round picks. And I'm glad they didn't. I like what they're building here.
I agree. I don't think he's old. He's Kevin Durant. He's old, but whatever. That's a whole nother. We're neither here nor there. So I'm curious. Going into business, that's pretty hard, right? Starting a company, a startup, a business like yours in particular, right? Sports betting's all the rage. You can kind of just walk down the street, throw a rock, find a new sports betting business in some capacity, right, on one side of the aisle or another. So I'm curious, James. We'll start with you. Like, what was it about Greg, and what was it about this idea that you said, "Hey, you know what? This is the right time. This is the best time to do this," and I think we've got something here.
Yeah, I guess for me, so in our previous work, we worked a lot with, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, and I work specifically in fintech and online retail. And one of the things that, is just now common sense is when you buy and sell stocks, you don't get charged fees, right? The whole industry sort of changed its revenue model to make money in a tech way versus the hindrance of the consumer. And yet, sports betting's been still making money off this fee this big for so long, and it hasn't changed. And so, our whole platform is based around no vig, no fee. You come on as a consumer, you never get charged a fee, and we make money like tech companies do, like Robinhood, Webull, stuff like that. And so, just seeing us hopefully start that boulder down the hill to change the industry and change the revenue model and that innovation, that's really what got me excited. And then, Greg, the reason I was drawn to him, obviously he was one of my best friends, and we started at work together worked together for a year, and then we both kind of did our own thing for the next 8-9 years. But Greg left the first job we were at and joined a startup at a very early stage and worked with that startup all the way through IPO. So like there was no better person to bring on that basically knew how to do that from a company. Because for me, you know, I knew the tech. I definitely was big into the sports and the sports betting, but I knew nothing about starting a company and everything that it entailed. And that's where Greg was perfect for that.
I love that. That's such a great answer. Drinks on Greg whenever we get to go out sometime. Greg, I guess same question to you, man. I'll throw it.
Yeah, so James and I met the very first day at PwC. You know, that weekend, I think we took a trip together, became fast friends. And I learned pretty quickly that, you know, James and I both had this entrepreneurial spirit, and we wanted to build and we wanted to code, we wanted to do all these things. And then we'd be sitting there and, you know, think of an idea. And before the end of the weekend, James would have it coded up and, you know, submitted to the App Store and all that type of stuff. And I was like, he's the better coder than I. But he had brought, you know, BettorEdge as an idea to me. We started doing research in the market, the industry, all those things. We're like, holy smokes, there's a huge opportunity here. We should capture that. And so took that to an innovation challenge where we ended up winning that innovation challenge that really kicked off the company. And a lot of that's been huge for what James has accomplished on the tech side.
That is awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are marrying two sides of the brain almost at one time. Just kind of put that together. As it makes sense that while we're doing this one together. Again, BettorEdge is the name of the company. I guess we'll get right into it. Greg, you're taking a sip of coffee. So James, what exactly is BettorEdge? What are you guys doing, and how are you doing it?
Yeah, so we're a social betting marketplace. So really what that means is if you look at the legacy, just traditional sports betting industry, you have your, you know, sports books, that whole model where, you know, they basically tell you that, hey, there's an event, this team is favored, the payout is worth this. They charge a fee for pricing that because they obviously have positions on the back end and all of that. And then they pay you out minus that fee at the end of the day. All we are trying to do is take advantage of the fact that betting is very social. So betting against a sports book is sort of, it's very individual. It's not social like sports betting really is. Because even when you bet with the sports book, you then go and tell your friends what you did and you get everyone around you and you all get excited about the bets and people trash talk you and all of that. And so basically we just took that sports book out of the middle and created a platform that allows people to bet amongst each other where, you know, the back end, the algorithms operate very much like a stock market. But at the end of the day, it is Greg wants to bet the Vikings on Sunday. Someone else in the world wants to bet the Packers. You guys just put your orders out there. Our platform exchanges it. You don't necessarily need to know who is on the other side. And there might be multiple people on the other side, right? If you put a big $1,000 order, it's likely not another user is going to have a $1,000 order. There could be 20 users that have, you know, $5 orders or $50 orders that make it up. But if you wanted to know who you were actually betting against, you can also do the straight up head to head. I can bet Greg and so forth. And we have all the tracking in there. And so you can measure your head to head records. You can track all of your analytics and all of that fun stuff. And the best part, you know, we're not innovating any bet types, right? We're not out there creating a new daily fantasy way to bet or creating a new bet type like a player prop or any of that. We have all those, but where we're trying to innovate is, like I said earlier, is on the revenue model and changing the way companies in this industry make money. And so we don't charge any fees. So that's the cool thing. I think the number's like 52.4% is the winning percentage you actually have to have in a sportsbook industry to actually make money. For us, it's 50.01%, which I think is what we would like our legacy to be at the end of the day.
I think that's a really interesting concept because there's a lot of different books that are popping up. You know, exchanges are popping up. There's a lot of different places that are popping up that allow something similar to theirs, but not exactly. I think the social aspect is where you guys are pushing a little bit further. James, one more for you because you brought it up a couple times. Like, how do you guys make money then?
Yeah, so there's a few ways. So we do sell ads. So we do have a whole social feed. So we'll sell ads. So you'll get targeted ads and stuff based on activity and things that you do. So that's one. We also are a digital wallet at the end of the day, so we can make money using fintech methods like float and pay for order flow, kind of those types of things. And then On top of that, we have premium features. So we have a ton of data. We partner with a bunch of podcasts. We partner with other data providers that, you know, forever it'll be free just if you want to go on and bet, right? But if you want to get all of that information at your fingertips, you want to have sort of a leg up, you can do the premium models to pay sort of a monthly subscription or even add a micro payment to unlock a specific premium feature. So you can pay to get those features unlocked.
Very cool. Yeah, because if you guys aren't making money, then this isn't going to last very long, huh? So I think that I always like asking that. We need to understand how you guys are making money. Hopefully, you got a little bit of a runway too. Greg, I want to throw it to you for a second. What exactly? So James gave us a good understanding, but what is the problem that you guys are solving?
There's quite a few. I mean, I think the first one that James nailed is the fees. So being able to give just the community and individuals the opportunity to win at 50% is huge. If you make 20 bets at the end of the day with a VIG of 5%, you're already down 1 unit. And so our platform takes that away and you can continue to win at 50%. So that I think is a huge, huge opportunity. The other exciting thing too is, we have the whole social side connected to our platform with our betting. So if you're on there, I can follow and track and see exactly what you're doing. So there's a lot of transparency in the industry that allows for you to see, okay, he's betting this, he's putting money on it, here's his track record, I can see your win percent, I can see all those types of things. So there's transparency behind what you're doing, so that we're actually allowed to bet together, bet against each other, and have fun with it that way. And then
I think that's
another thing.
Sorry.
No, God. I think the other thing that we're excited about as well is because we don't have a dog in the fight, we can also provide you a ton of analytics that help you get smarter about your bets. So we can give you information that says, you win 10-1 when you bet Saturday mornings, but maybe you don't win when you bet at night, or you do really well when you bet the Vikings, but you don't do well when you bet other teams. So that analytics is really cool. And, James is extremely passionate about that with his background and how we can help you become a smarter bettor because we're not going against you.
James, you had a point?
I was just going to double down on the transparency thing. Like, just imagine in the stock market and fintech industry where, like, okay, I'm going to buy Apple stock, and the New York Stock Exchange told me it was worth 1,000, but they didn't tell you why it was worth 1,000 or how it was worth 1,000. That's basically the sports betting industry today. They tell you what the price is, and they have all the data on the back end that gives them the information more than their consumer. Like, that's what we're trying to solve. We're bringing transparency. So every trade that occurs on our platform, we show you the volume, the price it was exchanged at, and so all of that is visible to every user.
Right. Those are those fishy lines. Like, why are what the hell are they now? The Commanders only 4.5-point dogs to the Cowboys. What's going on there? I remember that line specifically because I meant that doesn't make any sense. I'm hammering the Cowboys. I ended up winning. They won that game by like 2 touchdowns or whatever. So that is always a very interesting aspect of it, right? I even work for a sports book. I have literally no idea how these things are created. Zero insight and idea on how they do that. And I totally agree with you on that one, but it's also really interesting to kind of like, rub your chin a little bit and be like, I wonder why the lines are like that. And you guys are pretty much telling me that you'll give everybody all this information, all the analytics that could pretty much be able to just explain the story of why are the Commanders 4.5-point dogs, and they just went on a 3-game winning streak. Shouldn't they be only a 1.5-point dog? So I think that's really interesting. Where, I guess, are you getting all that data and information from?
Well, so that's activity on our platform, right? Like if you get so many people that are betting on the game that if all of a sudden the line is at -6 and then someone puts, we call a limit order. So basically you can say, I want them at -4.5. And so I'll put a big order out there with a dollar amount behind it. And once someone accepts that order, it moves the line to that new price. And so what you see is this order book or bid-ask spread where you can basically look at, oh man, there's this one guy who really likes them at 4.5. They're putting a lot of money on it, but the rest of the market is only willing to pay -6.5. It's like, what does this guy know? And so like you but then when it does change, you can look at the history and be like, well, I know why it changed because this big guy said it was 4.5. Someone agreed that it was, and now it changed, which is really what happens in the back end, right, of sports books. It's just people are determining it behind closed doors versus having it just exposed to the world.
And so, out of curiosity, just for people that are familiar, are all bets plus 100?
No, no, not at all. So
Okay, so explain that.
that's the whole pricing concept, right? So everything's based on around an outcome, right? So if you look at a market like just a money line market, so there's two outcomes, right? Team A wins or Team B wins. Anytime there's a draw, everything just goes back to the people's wallets. So it's all a push. And so now that you have these two outcomes, the price of picking one outcome is the odds, right? So if it's even, exactly even, that's minus 100. But let's say the Vikings are, or that'll never happen, the Packers are favored over the Vikings, right? And so someone's like, well, I'm not going to want to buy the Vikings 10 to win 10. I'll only buy them if I can get 10 to win 20, right? And so they'll put the order out there. They'll say, I want $10 on them, but I want it at plus 200. And so as long as someone says, oh, I'll take the Packers at minus 200, an exchange occurs. So we break everything down into, and not to get too technical, but into probabilities, right? Everything has to equal up to 100% probability. And so once it does, a trade occurs. So if you think they have a 40% chance of winning, someone else has to think the other side has a 60% chance. And our platform does a really good job of not needing it to be exact, right? Like if you think they're, you want them at 40% and someone else wants them at, the other side at 61, we'll still exchange that, but we move the line so you both get a better price. So you might get a little bit bigger payout. The other person gets a little bit bigger payout as well.
That's really interesting. I think that's a very important piece of it because liquidity in these types of markets, that's everything, right? If you're going against the book, believe me, Vegas has a lot of money. We have nothing to worry about there. That is fine. Liability is always a fun word when you get that thrown around. Don't worry. I'm sure they're going to be totally fine. But Greg, I'm kind of curious. How do you market a product like this to the point of you guys not having to put up a lot of that money because you want people on the platform, right? You want people to do things on the platform so the liquidity's there and they're not like, oh, no one wants to take my bet. This is kind of frustrating. So from the business side of things, how are you expanding the footprint of the brand to get as many people on this platform as possible?
Yeah, definitely. I think when we started this, James and I thought night and day about liquidity and how we solved that. We got extremely lucky by launching in our first state in the state of Minnesota. For anybody that knows, there's tons of people here that are willing to fade Minnesota sports because they're always willing to lose at the last second. So that helped us out a ton. But beyond that, we really strategically decided to make sure that we kind of plant seeds in a lot of different states. So running campaigns in multiple states all at the same time, give a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different outcomes that really help manage liquidity. And I think we constantly track that to make sure that we're giving a great experience to our users and try to figure out how we can get better at it. And I think the one metric that we're really excited about is people understand our platform, and once they place an order, they usually come back about 75 to 80% of the time. So that really shows that liquidity is part of it, but yeah, we're with functionality and different features, we're really solving that experience. People continue to like it and come back.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. Again, coming from the traditional quote unquote sportsbook side of things, like I think if we had those numbers, I think if any of these books had those numbers, we'd all be in a pretty good spot. And I think it's really interesting that you were able to hit it big very quickly, right? It seems like that could have been a big problem, but apparently it's not. And apparently you guys are crushing it, which is awesome. I am curious though, like how are you encouraging people to bring their friends? How are you encouraging? Because you're going to need more and more and more, right? Because if one of those big guys that James was talking about places a huge bet and nothing comes through, he's going to be like, well, okay, that was fun, right? So it's, it's obvious for some of the smaller fish like myself. I'll put $20 on a game. That's fun. That gives me some juice. Maybe pays for my dinner that night if I win. But some of these, whales, we'll call them, in these states that aren't legal in terms of sports betting, which we'll get to the legality aspect in a second. How are you ensuring that, with 1 comes 2, comes 5, comes 10, comes 100?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's just been responsible gaming. So one of the things we push is really education around betting and how we can help users win more. You can tell our whole system cares about our community, but getting into unit management and really understanding that, people should be diversifying. You want to bet $1,000, put that into a unit, and then therefore put 1 unit on, a certain game and another unit on another game and 2, 3 units on something you're really, really, bullish on. So that type of mindset is really responsible, not only for the community, but it also really helps align to what we're trying to do. So that's been really exciting to see as, our users become more educated. They can win more frequently, and they can obviously have a better experience with it as well. And then with it, you talked about how to get more users on there. So we have a referral program where users can refer their friends. And once those users have great experience, they obviously want to get their friends on board so they can bet against them, bet with them, follow them, all those types of things. So they can actually get more money as well. So I think the combination of those have worked really nicely hand in hand to really kind of provide that great experience to people.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I want to kick it to the social side of things for a second here. I don't know who. I mean, maybe Greg, maybe James, whichever one you think can answer this best. What have you seen from that aspect of it? We've seen DraftKings try and launch like a little social platform within their sports book. They haven't talked about it since they launched it, so we'll let that explain really what's going on. What have you guys seen? I mean, Twitter is the lifeblood of the internet, as quoted by my friend Nick Wright. Right? I totally disagree, but like whatever, that's fine. Like it is what it is, and sports lives on Twitter. I download the app every NFL draft season, every playoff season because I love to see what the heck's going on. How do you get people to really start to engage over there and make sure that they're not just hopping back over to Twitter, that they're actually staying within the ecosystem that you guys have created?
Yeah, it's a good question. It starts with the fact that everything people do on our platform is tracked transparently. So if James is making a trade in a market, I can see that within the social feed and know exactly what's happening. So long as I follow James and he wants to, share that, he has the right to make it private if he wants to. It starts there, and then I think it goes further. So we have more features, more functionality coming out. Everyone's pretty familiar with this whole Discover concept where, we're going to start dropping, features, functionality, post information that aligns to the way that you engage with the platform. So if you're constantly in there jumping on Rutgers, we're going to serve posts about Rutgers for you, content for Rutgers, all that type of stuff to really help your experience get better. So I think, it's early days for the social, but as we continue to see more users come on board and have more feature functionality that really aligns to how users are actually engaged with the product, it's going to be huge. And I think, when James kind of came to this idea, I was, a big finance background, but the reality is I personally bet because I wanted to have fun with friends. So the ability to have that social functionality to talk, smack to people and say, that's not going to work. I believe that betting is really, that whole social part is what makes it so much fun. And I think that's really what's going to help it survive and take hold with it.
100%. James was explaining it earlier. Like, even though I just took this bet, I'm still going to go tell all my friends, and then they're all going to get FOMO. Just in case I win, they all have to take the bet now, right? James, I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I'm not going to delete my Twitter app, even though I created BettorEdge, right? Like, I'm still going to use Twitter. And I think it's naive of us. It would be naive of us to think that, we're just going to take all this, community from Twitter and put it onto our platform. I think we are really trying to strike a balance of what are we good at and what would cause people to want to be on our social versus making sure that we make it easy to share out to the social that everyone else has. So it's twofold, right? We want to get content out to those platforms so we can get people back, and then get content from those platforms onto our platform as well. So I think as we continue to grow and adapt, we'll hopefully find that right balance.
I love it. I think that's great. And Greg, to your point, I'm 100% taking the points whenever USC comes to Piscataway over here. I'm very excited for that game. That's going to be a fun one. Last question. We only got a couple minutes left, so Greg, I'll throw it to you. James, you can add on if necessary. How is this legal? I was looking it up, and I see all the states that you guys are live in. There's a free-to-play aspect of it, which is cool, so that makes it easy. But I think it's the other states you're pretty much 100% live in. So understanding how regulated this market is and everything that's going on, that's my question. How is this legal, at all?
Yeah, so we spent 2 years really focusing on the legal side and getting everything in a row from a federal state and talking to different states, as well as getting our MVP ready. And so when you really boil it down, a lot of states consider, laws around sportsbooks. What are sportsbooks doing? So sportsbook sets the price. It takes on risk against you. It does all these things. And that's not, we're not a sports book. At the end of the day, we're just connecting users together. And everything kind of flows from there. And obviously that's a huge part in kind of how our business model falls in those states. We've got 80 pages really kind of broken down by every single law that's relevant and kind of how those play out. And we've taken a really conservative approach in making sure that we're in the right states that allow for our platform to exist.
Yeah, it really boils down to a revenue model as well. We don't make any money on the betting activity. So if you get a bet with Greg, we don't take any fees on that. Plus, we don't allow institutional investors on there, right? So we're not going to partner with a casino or a sports book to fill liquidity, right? We're just users exchanging amongst themselves with no fees.
I think that's extremely smart. So whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it. I guess my last question is, if you guys can say, what's the biggest bet that you've seen placed on the platform by a single user?
Yeah, it's a good question. If you'd follow us on Twitter, you'll be able to see we post every single day.
Look at that.
And some of the big wins from last night. So
incredible.
I would recommend
this guy,
that.
man. Well, where can we follow you on Twitter?
At BettorEdge. I would say, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we typically see, 1,000, 2,000 on any given night. And then, bigger games, we see bet sizes, 3, 4, 5,000 out there. So I think, unless you have better numbers in front of you, James, but I think scrolling through Twitter is really a great place to really see that and showcase some of the big winners.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And football season's coming up, so those numbers are going to get a little bit higher. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our biggest obviously was, I think, the Super Bowl, but what we were really surprised by was March Madness just completely launched our volume so much higher than we expected. A little dip after the Super Bowl, and then it rolled into conference tournament basketball season, and it was just awesome. It was fun to watch.
The absolute best, man. Those 5-6 weeks after football when you get all those games. I mean, it's the sheer number of games too. That's the best part. That first weekend, man. I'm just heart palpitations thinking of it. Guys, this has been absolutely fantastic. Where can we find a little bit more about both of you? What is your preferred social medias? Greg, we'll start with you, and as well as obviously websites, app. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so I would say jump on BettorEdge.com. You can click join, and it'll take you right to our progressive web app. In there, you can find James to follow. You can find myself to follow. You can follow BettorEdge, stay in the know. My handles are, Greg there, and then G. Kajewski, other places as well. So give us a follow, and we'd love to have you guys check it out and have some fun with it.
Love it. James?
Yeah, and as the main creator of it, if you do bet and do things, I have hidden some nuggets around there, so you may get surprised by a coupon that I'll have to pay you some money or buy you a beer. But yeah, it's kind of fun to put some of that stuff in there. But yeah, James Seils in the platform or on LinkedIn. I guess LinkedIn would be the main one that I'm on.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. I'm not going to even bother with your last names. You both just said them. I tried to remember. Whatever. Greg and James, co-founders of BettorEdge. Thank you both for your time. I'm going to put everything in the show notes for everyone. Time's the only thing we won't get more of, so I appreciate both of you giving me a little bit of yours. And other than that, everyone, hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much.